That was the moment everything shifted. I suddenly felt watched, not by rescuers or bystanders, but by something immense and impossible to describe. For years, I had been a proud atheist, convinced that God was nothing more than a human invention. Welcome to Let's Lift the Veil. Tonight, a story that challenges logic, medicine, and even the deepest personal beliefs. In 1979, after a devastating car crash, a man was declared dead at the scene. His heart stopped, his body failed, yet his consciousness continued to observe, to understand, and to cross into something science still cannot explain. An out-of-body experience, a living light, a divine presence, a boundary between life and death. This powerful testimony may change the way we see existence and what might be waiting beyond it. If you're drawn to meaningful near-death experience stories like this one, consider subscribing and supporting the channel. It helps bring more of these voices and journeys to light. This story is inspired by a real testimony that you can read by clicking the link in the description or the one pinned in the first comment. We invite you now to listen with an open mind and an open heart. Now close your eyes. Breathe in. Let's lift the veil together. July 5, 1979 is burned into my memory with a clarity that still surprises me today. The first thing I remember is the heat. Not the pain, not the screams, not even the crash itself. Just the heat trapped inside the twisted metal of the car, thick and suffocating, mixed with the smell of gasoline and blood baking under the summer sun. I was trapped in the back seat, pinned and crushed, unable to move. Something sharp pressed into my hip. My legs wouldn't respond, and every breath felt like broken glass scraping inside my chest. When I looked down, I saw red everywhere. Too much red, blood pooling beneath me, fragments of bone where bone should never be visible. In the front seat was my best friend, completely still. Too still. That's when the cold realization settled in. If I didn't do something immediately, we were both going to die. One of my arms still worked, barely. So I dragged myself forward through the wreckage, slipping in my own blood, forcing my body to move inch by inch. The pain was electric and overwhelming, but adrenaline kept me going. I managed to free one leg and tried to reach my friend, pulling, straining, begging my body to give me just a little more strength. Nothing moved. I couldn't get him out. I was exhausted beyond anything I had ever known. A strange thought crept into my mind. Maybe I should just rest for a second. That terrified me, because I knew what rest really meant. It meant letting go. That was the moment everything shifted. I suddenly felt watched, not by rescuers or bystanders, but by something immense and impossible to describe. For years, I had been a proud atheist, convinced that God was nothing more than a human invention. Yet there, trapped between life and death, I felt an undeniable presence. I didn't see a figure or hear a voice, but I knew with absolute certainty that God was aware of me. Strangely, instead of praying, I argued. I remember thinking that it would be cowardly to suddenly ask for help from a God I claimed not to believe in. Even now it sounds foolish, but pride can be stubborn even when you're dying. Then in the distance, I heard sirens growing louder, cutting through the haze. Rescuers tore open the car, and someone grabbed my wrist to check my pulse. He held it for a long moment, then said words that still echo in my mind. Bag this one too, he's dead. And something inside me flared with anger. I shouted back, "No, I'm not." Suddenly, everything exploded into motion. They worked frantically to pull me out, loading me into the ambulance, but that's when reality began to feel unreal. It was as if I gently slipped out of my body. 1 second I was on the stretcher, the next I was above the ambulance, watching it from the outside like a camera floating in the air. My mind wasn't foggy or dreamlike. It was sharper than normal life, unbelievably clear. Colors were brighter, sounds more precise. Time no longer moved forward in a straight line. It felt fluid, almost sideways, as if past, present, and future existed together. My thoughts raced incredibly fast, yet I felt perfectly calm. I could see through walls, hear conversations rooms away, and later many of those details were confirmed as accurate. Inside the emergency room, I watched doctors and nurses panic around my body. Oddly, I didn't feel fear for myself. I felt sadness for them. They looked terrified. I kept trying to tell them to calm down, that everything would be okay. Then the light appeared. It wasn't a tunnel or another world, just a presence of light unlike anything earthly. It didn't simply shine, it felt alive, conscious and loving. It wrapped around me like warmth after a lifetime in the cold. An overwhelming peace flooded through me, followed by joy so powerful it felt almost unbearable. Then came unity. I no longer felt separate from anything. It was as if I was connected to everything that existed. In that state, understanding poured into me, and the universe suddenly made sense. Life, death, suffering, love, it all fit together like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was solving. My life replayed before me, not as memories but as experiences I relived completely. I felt every moment again, not only from my perspective but from the perspective of others. I felt the pain I had caused and the kindness I had given. I saw how every action, no matter how small, created ripples. Nothing was meaningless. Then came flashes of the future, not just my own life, but humanity itself, moments of struggle and growth unfolding all at once. Around me I sensed presences, beings without clear forms, undeniably real. And through everything, I felt God, not judging, just knowing. Eventually, I reached something like a boundary, an invisible border I instinctively understood I wasn't allowed to cross. If I went beyond it, I wouldn't return. Part of me desperately wanted to continue because it felt more like home than Earth ever had. But something gently pushed me back, firm yet compassionate, as if to say, "Not yet." In an instant, the peace vanished and I slammed back into my body. Pain crashed over me like fire. Weight returned, gravity returned, and I was breathing again. My life, behind the veil. When I truly woke up, days later in the hospital, machines surrounded me and my mother was crying beside the bed. Doctors told her there was no medical explanation for why I was still alive. I had lost massive amounts of blood and suffered fractures nearly everywhere, both legs, pelvis, hip, ribs, shoulder, arm, even my skull. They predicted amputations. They said I might never walk again. Yet somehow, 6 months later, I was walking on my own. Physical recovery turned out to be the simplest part. The real transformation happened inside me. Before the accident, I was a committed atheist who trusted only logic and dismissed faith as weakness. After what I experienced, disbelief became impossible. I hadn't adopted religion out of fear or desperation. I simply knew what I had encountered was real. That certainty changed everything. My priorities shifted completely. Personal ambition, ego, and material goals suddenly seemed small and temporary. What mattered most became simple: love others, help others, show up when someone needs you. Those were the only things that felt eternal. At the same time, relationships became complicated. Having seen how fragile life truly is, I found it difficult to grow too attached. Everything feels transient now, like we're all just passing through. There's a quiet loneliness in that awareness, but also a strange peace. I'm no longer afraid of death. If anything, I sometimes feel homesick for that place of light. My faith deepened over the years, eventually guiding me toward Christianity and the Bible, not as symbols but as truths that resonate with what I lived through. I don't claim special gifts or supernatural powers, only perspective, gratitude, and an unshakable conviction that God exists, and that love is the only thing we truly carry with us beyond this life. For many years I kept this story to myself because it felt too sacred to explain. But now I share it for those who are afraid of death, of meaninglessness, of being alone. I wasn't kept alive by chance. I believe I was given more time for a reason, and when my final day truly comes, I won't face it with fear. I'll face it with recognition, because I already know what waits on the other side: the peace, the light, and the presence of the Creator who never stopped watching over me. Thank you for listening to this near-death experience. Some stories are simply heard. Others stay with us forever. This testimony reminds us that life can change in a single second, yet it can also reveal a depth, a light, and a meaning we never imagined possible. Whether we call it faith, consciousness, or something beyond words, one truth remains: nothing is more fragile, and nothing is more precious than the time we're given here. If this story moved you, made you reflect, or brought you comfort, you can support the channel by liking the video, sharing it, or subscribing for more near-death experience testimonies. More journeys are waiting. More veils are ready to be lifted. For more first-hand accounts, watch the next episode on the following screen. New narratives drop regularly. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss one. Let's keep lifting the veil, one episode at a time. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. See you soon for another journey beyond the veil.